And welcome back. Now, the Department of Justice will today embark on a drive to create public awareness about Legal Aid South Africa. Now, this service was created to provide legal assistance for underprivileged members of the public who cannot afford the services of an attorney. And while this independent statutory body was established in 1969, it appears as though not many South Africans are actually aware of or even make use of this service. Now, Minister of Justice and Correctional Services Ronald Lamola is joining us now to discuss this. Minister, thanks so much for coming through. Let's start here. Who qualifies to use the services of Legal Aid SA?
It's people who cannot afford. You'll understand in our market there are those, the middle class, the upper class, but this is the mostly needy South Africans who need legal services for criminal matters, for divorce, and the various matters that affect them. So the legal aid has been helping many South Africans in the last financial year. Almost 700 and something thousand South Africans were helped. There's also a legal aid helpline, which we have been using for them to access. You can either call through a landline or you can send a WhatsApp. You can send a please call me. And then the legal aid people can be able to call you back for whatever legal advice you may need. So it has been a helpful system, but I think most South Africans need to be aware about it and use it because it's our justice system needs people to be able to access. They need to be able to have some kind of legal assistance for them to have a fair trial and for them to do it within the means of the Constitution.
So is there a threshold? I mean, what is the criteria for one to qualify for legal aid?
Yes, there's a threshold. It's almost between 0 to about 300,000 in terms of a per annum salary. But sometimes it can be on a need-by-need basis. And in some instances, it handles some interest cases, like the recently settled asbestos cases. There are many high-profile cases where sometimes where it's in the public interest, they can be able to help the needs, but also in the public interest, so that people are able to access justice. You will also remember in some instances, even on the Marikana matters, the legal aid board was also able to come in and help. So it's a system that we want to achieve universal access to the justice system. We are not yet there. But we believe that with more support from departments, from the public, the legal aid access can be able to be achieve the United Nations developmental goals.
Let's just try and extrapolate a little more of that, because when you talk about universal access, you acknowledge that it is quite challenging.
Yes.
So where do people go to access this legal aid? And what about rural areas? Because that is always the criticism that people in far-flung areas, in rural areas, they usually are left out when it comes to access.
Yes, we have got the offices countrywide in most of the towns, the cities, and in some of the townships. But it's true, with the rural areas, we are still trying to have access. But in most of the courts, we have got presence in almost each and every court across the country, where a person can be able to request the assistance of Legal Aid South Africa. It's a widely accessible system, but also you can also call, as I've said, the helpline. If you are in an area where you don't have access or you have not seen anyone who may be able to help you from the Legal Aid Board, you can do the call line, as I was saying.
So you were talking about, the number of people that were able to receive assistance from legal aid. You talk of about 70,000, did you
700,000.
700,000. 700,000.
Yeah.
And if you look at how many people actually requested legal aid, are you able to talk to us about those sort of numbers and the ratios?
Yeah, there is a huge number of people that do need legal aid. And I think on most of them that have requested it, those who were qualifying in terms of the means test, we have been able to help. And that is the number of about 700,000. The number that we have been able to help through the legal aid helpline is about 48,000. So it's a system that we think gradually people are beginning to have trust and are beginning to use. But we can do more in most of the rural areas, which are affected the most because of people not really being aware of the existence of the services. But most of the courts are able to advise people whether you need legal aid or not, and if you do, they are able to give you a person who can be quickly help you in terms of the application criteria of the Legal Aid Board.
And it, of course, has to be more than merely paying lip service when you talk about access for people in rural areas. So what's the plan in the immediate term?
Yes, it's not lip service. Hence, we've created the helpline where you can even do a please call me. It's clear if you do that, we are able to call you back. If you are not able to quickly arrive next to a court where you can get somebody who can quickly do the application, you can also go through some of the websites if you have got access to data. But in most of the courts, anywhere you appear, you are immediately told that if you need Legal Aid Board, there's a person who can help you. So it's practically quickly accessible.
But what about the return? Because I see you, that Legal Aid service line, the advice line, they attended to a total of more than 120,000 calls in the last year. So if you look at that number in terms of the success rate, and when I say success rate, I mean in terms of getting back to people and them receiving a satisfactory level of service from this particular line, have you been able to assess that?
Yes, we even do the quality assurance. After the calls have been made, we are able to do a survey to hear whether you have been satisfactorily helped and so forth, to check whether. So this is one of the most best run call center in some of our facilities, and it has been running for the past 9 years. So every year we're able to review it and be able to see whether it meets the best standards of a call center. And I think most people, in terms of the survey, have been able to confirm that they've received satisfactory advice, and it has been helping for their daily needs.
And then just in terms of who qualifies again, what sort of cases does legal aid attend to, and are there any that are excluded?
Yes. Most of the cases we handle is criminal cases. The cases that goes beyond outside the criminal cases are those that it's a real need, like divorce matters, maintenance matters, and land matters, the vulnerable. Because we are unable to handle some, for example, complex commercial matters. We may be overstretched for that. And some of them, the complex commercial matters anyway, the people who are involved in them can afford to get their own legal help and assistance, because they are mostly commercial people in business or involved in some economic activity. So hence we look mostly at the most vulnerable, the farm workers and so forth, so that we are able to help the people who are in real need of the service.
Minister, I just want to touch on a few other issues as well. The Durban-Westville Correctional Services, that story, the shenanigans and the social, the video that went viral on social media. What's happened in that instance?
Yeah, well, I did not want to chat on that because I'm not here for that. But we have done an investigation, and 4 people have been suspended. We are currently in the process of running the disciplinary hearings and so forth for the matter. So the matter is it's ongoing.
And then just finally, and again, as I say, I'm literally taking advantage of the fact that I have you in front of me. So the advisory panel on land reform, they've recommended that there be a permanent judge at the Land Claims Court to be appointed. What's your take on that?
Yes, we have already started a process to review the Land Claims Court, to make it a land court, which is going to have a broad mandate to deal with various issues that affects issues that relate to restitution, the conflicts that you know have affected most of them not working, the CPAs which are in conflicts, various complex commercial issues with regard to restitution, and also creating permanency of the land court in terms of judges that are permanent, because the current dispensation was really meant to be a temporary arrangement and a transitional arrangement. So we are already drafting a bill that is going to make the land court having a broader mandate to deal with all land-related matters, but also to create permanency for the court. So
given that the current judge is acting in that position, what is the plan with regard to basically appointing someone in a permanent capacity? Yeah, obviously we need to firstly attend to the issue of the legislation. As I've said, that the current system was meant to be transitional, and it was also meant to be a temporary arrangement. But unfortunately it took long. So we need to create legislation that will create permanency, that will ensure that the Land Claims Court
has a broad mandate that deals with all land-related matters, but also to prepare us for the current debate happening in the country with regard to expropriation without compensation, all those kind of issues. The court must be ready. It must also be able to develop jurisprudence that will create certainty and clarity on land issues.
And just a final one on court buildings and infrastructure. Yesterday you had Minister Patricia de Lille, Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, and Chief Justice Mogoeng addressing this particular matter. What is the department's plans?
Yeah, obviously it's a huge challenge, and we're happy that the Public Works is coming to the party, because magistrates, court officials have been raising concerns about the infrastructure. So it's an issue that we are working with Public Works to resolve, but also from within ourselves. We've just renovated a building in Middelburg through inmates and correctional services. So a collaboration between ourselves and Public Works will enable us to resolve some of the teething challenges of maintenance of our courts across the country.
Minister Ronald Lamola, thanks so much for your time. Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, talking to us about the department's drive to create awareness about the services provided by Legal Aid South Africa. And of course, we are about to take a break, but we still have coming up Independent Electoral Commission Simon Mavolo to talk to Leanne about political funding. And that, of course, a hot topic. So stay with us.